Kersplish. I'm here with my Christmas present to myself this previous year, and it's taken me a while to make a video about it, but I wanted to do it right. I want to make the first really good video on YouTube about Gluggle Jugs, because the first one I ever saw was by Steve Mould, and he runs a science channel. He's a British guy, and he focused mostly on kind of the science of Gluggle Jugs. They're also called Glug Jugs or Gurgle Jugs, but the most popular term is Gluggle Jugs. And I guess that they are mostly a British thing. They're popular in England. They were invented in England, and they're also well known in parts of the East Coast, particularly in Massachusetts and the Boston area. And I thought these were so cool, I kind of had to get one for myself. The thing about Steve Mould's video, though, is that it focuses mostly on the science. And I would really rather focus on the history, because to me the science is kind of self-explanatory. I mean, the question of like why these make this sound. Wait for it. And there it is there. There's the claim to fame. The reason they make that sound, obviously, is because of the bubbles in the water and the way the body of the jug is curved. They get stuck in that curve there, and then when they come out, the wide opening of the jug, the mouth of the fish, amplifies the sound. You know, it's really not all that different from when you're emptying a glass Coke bottle or something. It's pretty much the same phenomenon. It's just that because of the shape of it, it amplifies the sound. So anyway, I wanted to make a good video about the history of these things, because the history to me is really kind of fascinating. These have a long and storied past. They were actually invented by a company in England, in Staffordshire, called Thomas Forrester and Son, and in the 1870s. So they've been around for like 150 years. And I actually have a picture here of what one of the really old ones looked like. You see that there. And it made that, to me, you see, like, you know, that's kind of interesting. I'm really glad I was able to find one that looked like this. This one is kind of off type, because when the modern ones, I have the picture here of a modern one for you. This is what most of the modern ones look like. This is kind of the standard shape. And although that's cool, to me, that doesn't look as much like a fish as this does. This to me looks like a really cool, they're all made to look like North Atlantic cods. But this one, the only other one I ever found that looked like this one was one that was painted in, they called it like Asian style, like Asian koi fish style, with a lot of colors. I picked this one out, and it cost me 33 bucks. And the reason I like it is because it's the one color. It's this really cool shade of green and kind of black, you know, different kind of shades of green that kind of blend together. But then that really shows off all of the texture here. You see that? I love that. I love the texture of this fish. And you can actually lay it on its side like that. Hope I don't have too much. Yeah, it'll lay down on the side. Not too securely, though. There we go again. This one's off type, and it's weird because it was made with a hole. It wasn't, the tail and the head are supposed to be, you know, closed off so that the air can get trapped. But this one, for some reason, it was open, and so I had to take a piece of putty and stick that in there to create a seal so that it would work like a regular Gluggle jug. I don't know why that would be. I mean, I knew that it was a knockoff. It's a very attractive knockoff. It's actually more attractive, I think, than the real licensed Gluggle jugs. But it for some reason it's not only an imitation, but they made it like non-functional. I really don't know why you would do that. Maybe legal reasons. I'm not sure, but I don't think so, because I did a lot of research, and apparently there is one company that makes them in England and has the right to sell them, but I'll read some of this off to you. Most people will associate these jugs with Dartmouth Pottery, who originally produced a fish-shaped water jug which they called gurgling fish jugs, a novelty which always attracts attention. A special pair of jugs were made in 1958 for presentation to the Queen and Prince Philip on their visit to Britannia Naval College to present new colors. Gluggle Limited was established by Rosie Granger and Jane Joyce in 2009, has the exclusive right to sell and market these jugs in the UK on behalf of Wade Ceramics, established 1910, with brand new colors, which gives the jugs a more contemporary feel. In Mold's video, he actually smashes one of them to show what they look like on the inside, and so that he can make a 3D model of it. I kind of think that was unnecessary. I mean, like I said, it's pretty obvious how these things work. I mean, I know he was probably just trying to create spectacle, but this is going to be more, like I said, more about the history. Because really, when I was kind of on the Gluggle jug kick, I went all over YouTube, at least US YouTube, and I looked and looked for different, like, good videos about these things, and I really could not find very many. I found a bunch of really short videos, but no really long-form videos talking about the history and the culture and cultural significance and whatnot. So that's really what I'm trying to do here. And then I found this other article, which is about Shreve, Crump, and Lowe, which, yeah, teetered on the brink of extinction. And I guess that they're the U.S. company that makes them, if I'm correct. I mean, the article was a little bit confusing, but the impression I get is that's the American company that makes these things. There's that Gluggle Limited, which has the right to make and sell them in England. But then I think, you know, this is the separate company that has the right to make them in the U.S. I just think it's really cool that, like, it is this kind of British, like, England and New England cultural centerpiece, and the fact that it was presented to the Queen and Prince Philip, and I guess apparently the royal family in general, the British royal family, they love these things. This is like a big thing for them around the palace or whatever. Yeah, and so over the past 7 decades, it's become a ubiquitous Boston icon. The odds you don't know anyone who owns one are about the same as not knowing who's been to a Red Sox game. Been a source of local lore. This is kind of funny. After Rush Limbaugh received a gurgling cod from a fan in the early 90s, he liked the sound so much that he demonstrated it again and again on his radio show, drawing a comparison between the noise and Mary Jo Kopechne's drowning after Ted Kennedy's accident at Chappaquiddick. Those of you who, I mean, obviously, that happened before I was born, but I've heard about it all my life. And with the Kennedys being from Boston, it kind of bites a little bit harder, I think. But yeah, he used that sound effect to make fun of Ted Kennedy. What is known is that the original pictures were made at the request of Benjamin Dale Shreve, whose son Richard would be the last family member to run the company. We are talking about in the U.S. here again, and that they were modeled after a traditional English glug jug, but given a local hook with the anatomically correct fins, gills, and scales of one of New England's most enduring symbols. The first batch, all brown, depicted a cod with rounded fins and a flared mouth balancing on its tail, which curved around to meet the fish's chin, forming the handle. So yeah, that's a fairly standard design. This one, like I said, much more artistic, much prettier. Really, its only flaw is that for some reason they just didn't make it right, but I was able to fix it. Don't worry, I'll do that a few more times before the video's over, or at least 1 or 2 more times. I know that's what most of you came to see, so... But then, some interesting history, too, like I said. By the time the British company Dartmouth took over production in the early 60s, the scales had been smoothed, the mouth narrowed, the fins and tail squared off, and the cod repositioned to balance on its stomach with the tail turned up to connect with the back of its head. Oh, I got that wrong, actually. Yeah, the tail curved to meet the fish's chin. And then it was changed to the, yeah. So that, I'm sorry, I misread that. I was kind of just focusing on the screen. But yeah, it is different. I like this design better, where it's the back of the head. To me, I think that's just more aesthetic. When you look at the modern design here, like, this is what the licensed ones look like. And like I said, I do like mine a lot better. Like, to me, this doesn't really look like a fish. It almost looks like a Popeye cartoon of a fish or something. But it is bigger. That's another thing. This thing is only like 7 inches tall, like 7 inches tall, I think. Does not hold a lot of water. The inside is almost a little dirty. I think maybe it might have actually been used as a plant pot or a plant vase at some point. So, I don't know. Maybe that was what it was originally meant for. I'm never going to drink out of it, I can tell you that. But it is weird how the design did not change all that much over the years. It's weird, when I go looking for something online, it's so common for me to find something that not only is the exact price I'm willing to pay, like the perfect deal for me, but then also the exact one I would have wanted. You know, like I bought this ring recently, this ruby ring online, and it's like I've probably looked at, I've been on like a gemstone kick, so I've looked at like hundreds of men's ruby rings in the last week or two, and I can't find a single design I like better than this one, and this one was the perfect price. So I really do love online shopping. It's one of the good things about living in this time period. You know, I don't like everything about this time period, but if there's one thing I do like, it's when you go online shopping, you can really narrow down exactly what you want, and for some reason it tends to be just the right price for you too, at least in my experience. But we'll look here. Yeah, so we got where we left off was balancing on the stomach with the tail turned up to connect with the back of the head. Sorry, I keep hitting the tripod. In the early 90s, McDonald tried to have the cod made locally at a factory north of Boston, but the manufacturer couldn't get the finish down, possibly due to FDA regulations that limit the amount of lead in organic or ceramic glaze. With McDonough, who explained the Wade Ceramics had cast its mold from an existing pitcher, resulting in 7% decrease in size. I found that interesting, like how, yeah, you would lose some size if you were casting from an existing pitcher, so the new ones are would be a little bit smaller. And I think that's it. I think that covers all the basics. But yeah, it started with Thomas Forrester and Son in Staffordshire in the 1870s. And then went from there, and they have like a 150-year history. Nothing on the bottom there, but I'm really careful with this thing. I keep it on my stove top, in the back of my stove top, kind of in the corner there where it won't break or anything, because this thing is obviously ceramic. Very entertaining. I have a friend, this elderly woman I talked to at a local library. She'll be 99 this month. She's just about to turn 99. And when I showed this to her, she laughed and laughed. She thought it was just the most wonderful thing. It's always great to hear her laugh and get a kick out of something. It's just great. And I think it's, you know, it kind of goes to show that people in the past, you know, had a sense of humor just like we do. You know, some family in the 1870s might buy something like this and get a lot of enjoyment out of it. We often think of people in the past as being really stuffy, and the truth is they weren't. They were just like us. They had the same sense of humor that we do. They really were people just like us, and I think that's one of the big reasons I wanted to make a video about the history of this, is because it kind of shows that. And, you know, touch on the science, because I do love science, but to me, I think really the more rich vein of information is the history. So thanks for watching. Subscribe to Captain Unusual if you haven't already. This is a pretty typical Captain Unusual video. It's all about history and science and novelty and hobbies and just anything that kind of catches my interest, because I do love things like this, and this is like right at the nexus of just about everything I love in life. So if you're into this kind of stuff too, subscribe and make sure to comment. Let me know if you've seen these things. I hadn't heard about them until I saw that video, because I live in the U.S. in the Midwest, and you know, fishing. I mean, there is fishing, but it's not on as big of a scale, obviously, as on the East Coast or in the Atlantic. So thanks for watching. Like and subscribe, and I said that already, so catch you in the next video.